Welcome back to the CCS After Dark Conference Call podcast. I'm back with Somber for episode 4 for missing last week's episode due to some personal matters. It's good to be back though, Somber. How's it going, man? Okay.
CCS, we're winding down into crunch time. We're getting into rivalry week. We're getting to postseason play. It's going to be a really exciting time here for CCS.
Sorry about that. We were in the wrong call. We were in the production hangout call, not our age stream, but we are back in the right call. You should be able to hear Somber now, but it's good to be back, Somber, and it's been quite the last couple of weeks with upsets happening all across the league and across the country, and CRL that is as well, and it's been a lot of fun to sit back and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some absolutely shocking results, at least in CRL and national play with some of the teams here that are at the top end, and they seem to only be better outside of the CCS as well. So it's going to make for a very interesting postseason, seeing some of these teams and what they're doing against even tougher competition outside of the Division 1 scope here we have at CCS. So seeing that skill gap kind of close towards the top end, it not only makes our rankings for this week that much tougher to kind of pin down, but it's also making it tougher and tougher to see kind of how this postseason is going to shake out. And it's going to make for some really exciting Rocket League down the stretch here.
We're about to get a really good picture here in the next 4 weeks as these conference tournaments kick off starting next week. And obviously, this week being Rivalry, there's a lot of really big games happening, just like number 1 Akron will take on number 2 Ball State. So that's a big time top 2 match on Friday night. It looks like it's going to be. And I will unfortunately not be there. So we're going to be looking for some sort of alternate stream for that game to get on a broadcast. I'll be at the North Texas South Florida football game on Friday, so I'll miss that game. But it's sure to be a big one. We'll talk about that game later.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an even bigger matchup with this past league play, or I guess qualifier into league play result from this Ball State B squad. They look to just be getting better and better every week. And I mean, honestly, looking like some really fierce competition for Akron Gold in this final matchup of regular season, and then also down the stretch for playoffs. It's going to be, it's definitely going to be can't miss Rocket League, and I'm sure we can figure out a way to get that up on the main broadcast and make sure that everyone gets their eyes on that, because I have a feeling that we're in store for an absolute thriller, like we usually are, but much more so this season.
And Akron leads that series 3-0 over Ball State, and it's never been close. But I feel like this season it's going to be it's going to be close. That Ball State team has gotten way better since we last saw them in the spring with Jesse Ultor and Ultor in a variety. And this year, obviously, it's Yags, Phoebes, and Ultor, I believe it is. And I think it's going to be a great game. And we've always talked about Akron and crunch time, and Akron in big time games they never lose. I don't think this will be the time either. I think they get the job done.
Hey, I mean, this Ball State Black squad, they were able to get it done against Baylor, against Hoxer, Andy, and JT. JT honestly has been popping off. Baylor, their results through league play has looked phenomenal, which makes that win from Ball State Black look even better from qualifiers and CRL. So they obviously are showing that with this new roster, they can step up to the highest level of play for Collegiate Rocket League. And Akron Gold, they've been in a little bit of a slump, obviously outside of the CCS. We haven't seen that slump impact their play here. I think that it's mainly the confidence of, hey, we're the three-peat champion here for CCS. This is our league. We run this show. And I think confidence is one heck of a thing. But I think that this is the year, or rather the season, that Ball State closes that gap and makes Akron sweat a little bit before they get to that final game out in grand finals.
I think it's going to be close. I'll give you that. I don't think it'll be as big of a blowout as it's been in the past. I think it's going to be a close game, and again, it's only best of 5, and I hope we get to see this in a best of 7 in the MAC tournament. But that's for a later on discussion. But if Akron does win, this will be the first time in CCS history the team that opened up number 1 in the season will stay number 1 the entire season. That'd be the first time ever if Akron can hang on at 1 here.
It'd be impressive too, especially with how many more quality teams we've seen come in for this season. I will say I was kind of tempted with just that Baylor result for Ball State hanging in the back of my mind, and Ball State and CCS not dropping a single game yet going into playing Akron. I was like, are they really putting together a resume that's good enough to put them at number one? But Akron Gold, you got to keep the reigning champs there. They've only dropped a game. They look dominant as ever. It'll be quite impressive to see if they can go into the postseason and win their conference championship as that one seed. They've just been the most dominant team through this league so far, and I think that again, it's the confidence, right? You go in, it's kind of that Bama mentality of you're the best team around, and it's going to take it. It's going to take a lot to kind of knock you off that pedestal, and I think Ball State's going to get close and be able to kind of show that this team can bleed. But Akron Gold is just Akron Gold. At the end of the day, they're going to be great.
I mean, again, it's Akron Gold. They're number one in the country for a reason. They've won 3 straight national titles in CCS. I mean, no one can beat them when it matters. They've lost a couple non-conference tilts with Florida, Syracuse, and Drexel twice, but when it matters in the tournament, they've never been defeated, and I think that'll stand true for probably another season because CCS is Akron stomping grounds, and they never lose. But we'll have to wait and see how the tournament ends up going in a couple weeks. I'm super excited. This is going to be a stacked field, somber. I'm excited to kind of get into it. Let's get into it. Week 6 of the game of the week. I think it goes with no discussion or debate here. It's number 1 Akron, number 2 Ball State. Who do you got?
Oh man, for the cinema, I want to say Ball State in 5. The realist in me thinks that it will probably be more so Akron. I think it goes to 5 either way, but for the sake of parity, give me Ball State in 5 for this season.
Ball State in 5. I mean, I like it, but again, I can't go against Jonathan. I just can't. I'm taking Akron in 4.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, again, my brain says probably Akron in 4. I think you're gonna go. I think you're gonna be right. Again, it's just the confidence, the mindset of being the number 1 team. They play so well with kind of that behind them, that fact behind them that they are just the best team by far here in the league. But I think Ball State, they've been hungry. They've been a great program. I know that they're going to come out and hopefully be able to upset in their CRL during this week, and it's going to be great warm up going into that Friday matchup against Akron. And I think that if there was a time for Akron to lose in the regular season to Ball State, this is the season to do so. And I want to give the edge to Ball State. So my heart says Ball State in 5, but I see where you're coming from with Akron in 4.
I mean, they've never lost a conference game, although they've had a couple of close calls, especially this season. I think they've had like 2 or 3 game 5s by this point in time, with Central Michigan, Northern Illinois being 2 of those 3. I think there was also another one, but I'm not quite sure who. But they've had a couple scares, although it's Akron. I'm sure when it gets to game 5, they decide to lock in and actually not troll and lose. But who knows? But they are undefeated. They have not lost a conference game ever, so I think they'll stand by that, and I think they're going to win.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, can't miss Rocket League coming up on Friday night.
It's going to be fun. I mean, I'm excited. I'll be hopefully able to tune in at some point. I think the game's at like 7 Eastern. They haven't agreed, but I think it's going to be 7 Eastern, which is just before kickoff in North Texas, South Florida. So I'll get to watch that on my way to the game, or while I'm sitting in the stands waiting for the football game to start. I'm excited, though. It's going to be a big week for obviously UNC football and this Ball State Akron game.
Yeah, it's going to be massive. Again, I think that Ball State is starting to hit their stride. I think that team, with the pickup of Phoebes and the emergence of Yags, I think that team is starting to finally figure it out and kind of reach to the height at what Akron Gold can. But I think the big thing with Akron Gold is we've seen up and down play elsewhere outside of CCS during the fall. But yeah, I don't know. I really just like how Ball State's looking. Overall, I mean, Variety was in talks of jumping up to the main team. That puts a lot of stake behind their name and the quality of player they are. And Phoebes being this new incoming freshman that was recruited specifically to spearhead this B team. Ball State just looks so good, but at the end of the day, Akron's going to Akron.
The Zips are going to zip somber, and I think I don't see Ball State winning, but again, I think it's going to be one hell of a fight, I'm sure, and I'm excited to watch it. I think it's a big-time game, and it is rivalry week. Anything can happen as we know it, and I think before we get into these games this week, the big-time rivalry games, should we go ahead and reveal the top 25 so I can mention the number before the opponents, or should we just do the games first?
I think coming out with
Wait,
the power
wait, can
rankings.
I get a vote in chat?
Yeah, let's get a quick vote. Let's see what
I'll
chat
take
wants.
majority.
I personally would say let's go rankings so that way everyone in chat can argue about it while we go over the matchups.
Top
Because I
25
know that there's
now.
gonna be
Games first, so we're 1-1.
okay so far. Man, Joe Bro and Taquito always on opposite ends.
I think my vote's top 25 first. It'd make more sense. But
Is
I want
there
to wait
here?
for votes in chat. If you're listening, drop a vote. So we're at 1-1 right now. Roscus
And then we
neutral.
also yeah, and then we have a neutral.
Okay, vote's over. We're going top 25 first. Let me find it here. Week 5 top 25 poll presented by Sideline Sports Network is here. Akron is number 1, Ball State 2, Charlotte 3, San Diego State 4 to round out the top 4, and Maryland jumps from 8 to 5. Wichita State falls from 3 to 6. Arizona State up to 8. South Carolina, after 2 huge wins, jumps from 19 to 12. Missouri, after 2 losses, falls to 15. Northeastern jumps in at 24. Texas Tech ranked for the first time in CCS history at 25. Illinois State's at 23. Michigan State stumbles to 20. Clemson and Purdue up a couple slots. A lot of teams on the move here.
Yeah, it was an interesting top 5 for me because I personally had Charlotte a little lower, San Diego up 1, and Maryland up a couple spots, just because I'm looking at their seasons. Yeah, they've had a pretty run of the mill season so far for San Diego and Maryland. Charlotte, I feel like hasn't really faced that quality competition. I'm waiting for that Charlotte versus Wichita State rivalry week match to see kind of who in that coin toss is going to be the better team. Now, Boone has been saying this whole season that Knight is going to be playing once they hit the Charlotte week, once they hit playoffs, when the games start to matter that much more. I think that Wichita State with Knight in the lineup is going to be much better than this Niner squad, but I feel like number 3 is where they kind of are. We've seen a lot of the other top 4 teams kind of take a massive fall off in terms of their ranking and in terms of their play. I mean, Missouri at 15, they've had an abysmal week and deservedly dropped through, but I think at the end of the day, they're still going to be a top contender. But I think so far, the Niners being at 3, San Diego at 4, I feel like that's a pretty solid top 4 that we have, and arguments for those teams, and even for Maryland and Wichita to kind of mix around those. But as we currently go into week 6, it's going to be a little bit of a jumble up in that top 10 as we get through some of these final matchups. But I'm liking how things are starting to wrap out here for the power rankings.
We'll take a look at the standings in a minute too, because the SEC standings are quite crazy going into this last week after looking at Missouri's 2 losses last week to South Carolina and 3 in Tennessee, and I believe it was 4 over Missouri, which is kind of a crazy night. Then I believe there was a lot of upsets that night, and Missouri obviously kept capping that night with 2 losses. But the SEC is crazy. I think they're going to get a good bit of teams in the tournament again, like always, and this top 25 is as close as ever. I think the Big Ten tournament is going to be the tournament to watch. I think they've got the highest quality of play across the country. I think that tournament will be very stacked depth wise. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for next week.
Yeah, I think that the Big Ten right now, we said it, I believe, going into week 2 or right after week 2, Big Ten is going to be the deepest conference. I mean, I realistically wanted to put the top 4 teams in the Big Ten up in the top kind of 18 realm, but I felt like that was a little unfair to some of the seasons that a lot of these SEC and the Sun Belt teams have had. But the Big Ten is the deepest conference. It has so much top end talent. It has so many underdog teams that can make a run. Your Illinois, your Nebraskas, they can make things happen. The kind of downfall of Penn State, of them not having kind of the expected season going into this, I thought that Penn State was going to be where Michigan State currently is at in their conference. But yeah, this is going to be the tournament to watch for the postseason. I think that a lot of the teams that are going to be making the top 8 are outside of the Big Ten, but I think that in terms of entertainment and anything can happen throughout your conference playoff, I think that's the Big Ten. It's going to be the most exciting Rocket League that we see throughout the postseason until we get to that top 8 of the national championship.
We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of big games coming up this week, and as the tournament kicks off, we'll have a good game after good game. So I'm excited for it, but we'll get into rivalry week somber, and we'll start off with the Big 12. Number 21, Arizona takes on number 8, Arizona State. I'll take the Wildcats in 4. I think they get it done. They've always owned Arizona State, so I think they're going to do it one more time.
Yeah, I have to go with you on that one. I think that this is going to be a close one just because there is that history between these two, but history shows Arizona knows how to perform in the conference or in the end of conference play here against Arizona State in the rivalry matchup. The battle for Arizona, I'm going to go Wildcats as well in 4.
I think the territorial cup will head home to Tucson, and I think this time, and Arizona will reclaim what was theirs after last season's loss to Arizona State. The one time it's actually only happened was last season in the regular season, but I think Arizona gets that trophy back, and they're going to be well on their way to a number 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Moving along, though, to the Blue Bonnet battle. Baylor takes on TCU, both teams towards the bottom of the Big 12. I'll take the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I'll have to go with that as well. I mean, currently winless, but I think that they match up pretty well against Baylor. So yeah, give me TCU.
TCU played Utah pretty close 2 nights ago with the Game 5 and lost just short of a win there. I think TCU's gotten better, but again, they play a difficult schedule, and I think that shows in a 0-6 record. I think it is right now, and they also play Houston this week, which both teams are currently the projected first round game of the Big 12 tournament. So they can play this week and play again next week. So that's a game to watch as well for TCU and Houston. But moving along to the Holy War, Utah takes on BYU. I'll take Utah in 4.
Yeah, I mean, I would even venture to say Utah in 3. Utah's always one of those teams where I feel like they just know how to perform, and I think that right now, fighting for seeding against teams like Kansas State and Colorado, you want to have the best seed possible. You're kind of preying on the downfall of West Virginia in this final week. I think that Utah is going to come out and they're going to absolutely stomp BYU.
Well, last night Utah lost in 3 to Kansas State, so take that for what it's worth. That's probably a loss that probably shouldn't have happened, but you know what? Yeah. Good on Kansas State. That's a big time win over Utah there. But the Rocky Mountain Rumble, Colorado takes on Utah. Both teams unranked. Colorado a new look roster with Cole. I'll take the Buffaloes in 3.
Yeah, as much as I just said you're going to be fighting for seeding, I think that again, I think that Utah is going to be able to beat up kind of on BYU. I think that they're going to be able to make it close with Colorado, keep that game diff as minimal as possible. But I think that Colorado will ultimately win it. They have been, I feel like, kind of struggling against teams that can punch up a little bit. They're not used to playing kind of those scrappy mentality teams. So I think it'll go 5, but give me Colorado as well.
Colorado's played 2 matches in CCS with Cole. They're 1-1 in those splits, defeating Kansas State in 3 and losing to Arizona in 5. So again, that's a respectable result. I think Colorado's better right now. They've got Cole again, who's again a hell of a player. Managed him for like a year and a half ago. He's really good. I like the condition. I think it's going to bode well for Colorado moving forward, and I think they're going to win this one pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
Moving along, I mean, State Carolina game, somber, NC State, North Carolina. I'll let you go first as a fellow Carolina resident. It's a big-time game in the ACC. North Carolina is probably favored, but who do you got?
I hate to spoil this. I have already seen this matchup elsewhere. I don't think that we're going to be seeing anything different. Give me the Wolfpack in 4.
Really? You're taking NC State?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm taking North Carolina. I'll take them in 4.
All right.
Fanatic and Nora are disgusting. Nora nearly beat Akron in North Carolina last season. I think you can take that with a grain of salt, but I think this UNC team has it in them get a win here in a big time rivalry game. I'm excited, but I think North Carolina wins it pretty easily.
Yeah, as much as I agree, again, over in the Carolina Collegiate Clash where these guys played in the week one of that league, it
Didn't they play the
it was
sub?
not. They did play with a sub.
It was like C2 or
However,
whatever Fnatic said.
I did not have that information. All I knew was that it was a sub.
I don't think the
but
sub is very good.
But I will also, if we're going to put caveats on that, in that same game, NC State was playing a LAN earlier that day, and they had been playing about 11 hours of Rocket League
It was at the
leading up
LAN.
to that.
They played each other at the LAN, and Fnatic said they had like a C2 sub or something.
Then they played online as well that same night.
Whatever the LAN in DC was whenever they played.
Oh, this was a different one. This was a NC State LAN. This was like a little local LAN that NC State held at their esports arena. NC State had played all day, and then NC State was playing with their sub as well with North Carolina UNC sub. So they were playing with a sub after an entire day at LAN, and NC State was kind of hard trolling that entire series, and it was in 4, and in game 4 it was a 10-1. So
I'll take it for what it's worth then. I mean, who knows? But I like North Carolina better in this one. But again, it's anything can happen as we know it. I'll stick with North Carolina.
Yeah, I think that honestly it's a toss up. I think that NC State can be beaten by North Carolina. I think that it was just a really poor showing the last time that I saw these two teams face off. But I'm gonna hedge my bet by going with the result that I've already seen, which was a 4-game win for NC State.
Well, it's
Prove me wrong though.
Well, it's the closing weekend of the Texas State Fair on the second Saturday of October, which means that Texas will take on Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl this weekend and in CCS. Somber, as a fellow Texas resident, I'll take the Longhorns in 5.
Really, I mean, yeah, I like Texas as a roster. I feel like they are one of those teams that they had a really good spring, and then now in the fall, I just don't know what happened in this SEC. There's been a lot of really kind of, shall we say, funny results to come out of the SEC. Texas is one of those teams. I understand Oklahoma's record, but seeing the roster play, I don't really put too much stock into their record and their seed right now. The competition that they have out of those 5 wins isn't necessarily the best. Give me Texas as well.
Yeah, I mean Oklahoma's 5-1 to probably what most people say is an easy schedule, which again is fair enough. They play Missouri this week. That's probably an L, unless Missouri's still not grinding the game, which people have said they're not playing very much, but I'll see. I don't think that'll be a problem taking on Oklahoma. I think that game is on Wednesday, but I like Missouri in that game. But speaking of this game, again, Oklahoma's 5-1, Texas is 2-4, trying to get back to 500 with a doubleheader this week, which we'll get into the next game here in a minute. But Oklahoma, they come in at 5-1. Great. They're looking towards the top of the big SEC tournament, potentially a double bye if they can find a way to win this game. But again, I think Texas is the better team on paper. I'll take the Longhorns in 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think that Texas they're like you said, they're the better team on paper. I think that they're, until you hit Florida out of this 7th through 11th seed, they're the best team in this kind of group down here with the talent they have on their roster. So yeah, give me Texas in 5 as well.
I mean, these things are just crazy, but it is what it is. I mean, it's what happens in big conferences. You don't get to play a lot of games, and standings be what they are. But I think Texas gets it done in 5. Moving along, though, to the Lone Star Showdown, somber, happening in real life, too, at DKR later on in the year. But Texas and A&M last night with the Game 5 with LSU. So take that for what it's worth. But I'll take Texas in 4.
Yeah, agreed. Texas A&M has had a very up and down season.
I mean, hell, they swept
I think
South Carolina.
Yeah, they are beating teams that they shouldn't. They are losing to teams that they shouldn't. I can't get a read on them whatsoever. I thought they were going to be a top team in CCS this season, especially after their performance in the summer. Again, I think that I'm just going to have to take this as on paper. Who would I like more? What players do I think is on paper going to be a better team overall? And that's going to be Texas.
Yeah, I think Flycool and Sean K have both departed that roster to focus on school, so they are down two of their best players. But again, I still like Texas in that game. Although, heck,
Yeah.
A&M is 2-0 against Texas in CCS, so they've never lost to them. But I think this is the time Texas will strike back.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Texas is primed for a late game push to get some better seeding here, because in the pool that they're currently in with Georgia, Arkansas, Auburn, and Kentucky, no disrespect to those teams, but Texas is just a much better roster than all of those teams. They should not be down here at the 11th spot.
I mean, Texas can get to +2 at 4-4 at 500 if they can get there, which gives them a shot to play for as high as 6. That would require Florida losing to Arkansas and Georgia, which won't happen. So, realistically speaking, if Texas does win out and gets to 4-4, they're likely 7th or 8th, depending on what happens with A&M and the Oklahoma-Missouri game. But they're likely 8th if I had to guess, which puts them up against number 9 in the first round of or second round of the SEC tournament next week. But it's still early to tell. We'll have to figure that out later on in the week. But again, Texas, I think they're good enough to win both of these rivalry games with OU and A&M, and 4-4 is not too bad of a season.
Yeah, again, I think that this is where they bounce back. I think that 8th, I would probably have figured that this team finished probably closer to 5th or 6th. So going from a 5th or 6th projection and finishing out at an 8th seed, not too shabby. And again, you'd like your matchup if your matchup is Arkansas going into that second round of the SEC tournament.
I mean, look at the schedule Texas started with: Tennessee, South Carolina, and Florida. That's a gauntlet. Just in 2 weeks of SEC play, they're 0-3 after those 3 games. I mean, it's just another night in the SEC. But Ghost Dog, to answer your question, Utah, they were starting off pretty good, but they have stumbled lately. They're currently 3-3 and 7th place in the Big 12. They'll take on BYU and Colorado this week in their 2 rivalry games, which both will happen, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday night later on this week. Moving along, those somber on our next game, number 7, Florida takes on unranked Georgia. And the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, I think that's an easy one to pick across our board, and take Florida in 3.
Yeah, I think so as well. Again, Florida hasn't really had the fall off despite given their position here at 6th. I think that's just that the SEC is showing its depth a little bit more, with Mississippi State stepping up and Oklahoma stepping up, and Mizzou kind of having the I don't know losses. But yeah, Florida in 3. I feel like Georgia is going to be able to make a couple of the games close, but I don't think they're going to make it close enough to make Florida sweat. So give me the sweep here for the Gators.
Sounds about right to me. I mean, again, I think Georgia they're a rung too low to deal with the pressure of Florida. And again, NIU beat this roster. They're not unbeatable, but Florida's Florida. They deserved to beat Missouri last week. Didn't get the job done, but they're a heck of a roster. I think this season's going to be different for the Gators. They will not be a first round exit this time, I hope. I'd like to see that team make a run. They deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after the NIU run that we saw, I feel like Florida was primed for, at the very least, a top 4 in the summer. That run got cut short. So we'll see here if they're able to have that redemption arc in postseason play.
Moving along to the game, Somper, Michigan takes on Ohio State. Both teams unranked, so Ohio State was pretty close a couple weeks ago to being ranked, but they've since stumbled. They've lost in 5 to, I believe, I don't even remember who. They lost last night to Nebraska. So Michigan is Michigan. They've struggled in the past, but I like Ohio State in this game. I think it's going to be close. Give me the Buckeyes in 5.
I'm going to have to 100% agree with you. Buckeyes in 5. Give me Ohio State. Again, it's a scrappy team. The wins aren't gonna matter too much here in the Big Ten, as the top is pretty solid in your 1 through 7. It's gonna take a lot to crack into that. Right now, you're playing for pride. You're playing for maybe a +1 in your spot. But I think that Ohio State, they're gonna take this as serious as a heart attack. They're gonna play this like their lives are on the line. They're gonna come out with a win here against Michigan.
Yeah, that's a game you don't want to lose. If you're Michigan or Ohio State, that's this you want to win. You don't want to lose to, Ohio State if you're a Michigan fan, and you don't want to lose to Michigan if you're an Ohio State fan. So I get it. That's a big time game for those programs. Michigan and Ohio State, I believe, are 1-1 in that series in CCS. So this is to break a tie, and I think Ohio State, they're both 11-12 right now, respectively. So I'm at 2-5, I believe. Their records show right now 2-5. Yeah, both of them 2-5. But I think Ohio State will get that third win.
Yeah, finishing off the season 3-5. I mean, again, you might get that +1 if Minnesota has the loss, and you finish out with a slightly better game diff. Who knows what happens with that +1 in postseason? But again, like you said, I think that there's just more on the line here with the Ohio State Michigan game. Like that's one of the biggest rivalries, and it runs deep throughout everything in those schools. So I think Ohio State is going to be able to get it done.
Well, the Old Oak and Bucket game heads to Bloomington Somber. Purdue takes on Indiana. 14 Purdue takes on number 18 Indiana. They've been, they've had Twitter masterclasses on each other in the past in CCS, and heck, they've even come after me. So I've seen it from both sides. Indiana social media has come for my head a couple times on Twitter for saying Purdue's going to beat them, but I'm going to do it again. I'll take Purdue in 4.
I'm going to give one extra game to Indiana, but give me Purdue as well. Give me Purdue in 5.
I like that. I mean, I think it's close. But everything they play, Indiana just smacks them. And I just look silly. Because Indiana always wins and it's never close. But you know what? I think this season's different. Purdue's really good, but so is Indiana. But I like Purdue here in 4. But anyway, it's going to be exciting. I mean, it's going to be a fun game, and I hope I get to stream it.
Yeah, that a lot of these are going to be can't miss, but I feel like Indiana fans always show out. Purdue fans always show out. That's going to be an absolute banger. The chat's going to be having a great time. We're going to be having a great time. I think that's going to be just an all-around phenomenal matchup between these two. And like you said, Purdue has been really good this season. I feel like there was a lot of question marks about if there's going to be a fall off without Enchanted on the roster. I think that those questions have been answered, and the answer is Purdue is still a phenomenal team here in CCS, and we're going to see this with an absolute, hopefully an absolute banger matchup between them and Indiana, and making this rivalry kind of spark again.
I think they're playing right after they both lose in BBB calls, so that's the current plan. So I'm just they're going to give me a heads up, and I'm going to try to make it happen on stream. But if I can't, I'm really sorry in advance. But nonetheless, moving along, Minnesota and Wisconsin play for Paul Bunyan Zax. Those teams 9th and 10th respectively, right at the cutoff of a bye. Somber. That game probably pretty big now, so you got to buy in the line for the winner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with either of their games. I feel like I probably should be, since they're a middle of the pack team, kind of fighting for one of those middle seeds, but I feel like from results that I've seen from Wisconsin, I'm going to give them the slight edge. But I have a feeling that both these teams, I mean, near identical season so far. 3-3 for Wisconsin, 10-11 in games. Minnesota 3-4, 10-14. A singular sweep differentiating these two teams. But give me Wisconsin here, and we'll go in 4. We'll go in 4. Give them one game to sweat it out against Minnesota.
Yeah, I like Wisconsin too. Looking at the results, Wisconsin beat Ohio State. That's a solid win.
Yeah.
Minnesota hasn't done too much. I'll take Wisconsin in 3. It might not be close.
We'll have to see. I feel bad for not being familiar with it, but again, given the results against teams, and especially that Ohio State result, makes me err on the side of Wisconsin. Again, I don't think that'll necessarily be close, but I think that Minnesota might be able to grab a game here just because of how close it seems they've been able to play all of their series, being almost 500 through series and games with Wisconsin, and then pretty much the same thing with Minnesota. I think Minnesota might be able to grab a game, extend it a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, Wisconsin's going to be taking home the dub.
I agree. I think Wisconsin wins it and moves on to 4-3. They'll take on Iowa too. This week, moving along though, Michigan takes on Michigan State, another big time in-state showdown. This one will not be close. I think both of our picks are the exact same and the exact same amount of games. We could say it on three. Somber 1, 2, 3. State in 3.
Yeah, State in 3. Michigan State, man. Like they've been one of the biggest surprises, being a B team for Michigan State and coming out 5-1, a +9 game diff. It's not going to be close. The Spartans are going to absolutely stomp them.
Yeah, this might be a stomping. But again, I watched Purdue just absolutely go to town against Michigan State. So I'm kind of scared for what Michigan State will come out and do. But I think they're going to win this pretty convincingly. I think it's going to be 3-0. Michigan hasn't ever impressed me. They've always been towards the bottom of the Big Ten in CCS. I'm still looking for them to get it together. Right now, Michigan State, they're too heavy of a pick. I'm taking them in 3.
Yeah, I feel like that's a take that you bet the house on, is Michigan State sweep.
You bet that 401k on it. But
yeah, put the whole thing on there.
Moving along is the Southern California Crosstown Cup taking place later tonight at 10 Eastern. It'll be UCLA takes on Southern California. I'll take UCLA in 5.
Yeah, I will as well. UCLA, they've honestly been one of the big turnaround rosters. I remember them being at the bottom of the Big Ten, Pac-12 a couple seasons ago.
That comes back next year.
And they looked really weak. They've been on a slow climb, 5-2, +7 game diff. I think that from what I've seen in results from USC, they've been able to keep things close and win when they need to. But I think that UCLA is going to be able to take the win. So I like the shout on the Bruins in 5.
I think it's close. I mean, I've gotten to watch both these two teams play on stream a couple times, but I like UCLA. I like the Bruins here. They've played exceptionally well in big time games in the past. They beat Maryland last 2 seasons ago in the quarterfinal Big Ten tournament, knocked them out. But again, this UCLA team is no joke. I like them in 5, maybe even I'll switch to 4. I'll go UCLA in 4. I think 5's pushing it. I'll take the Bruins in 4.
I'm still gonna err on the side of caution and go 5. I mean, it's rivalry week. There can be some quick chat spams to give them an extra game, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be close. Definitely not gonna be a sweep, but we'll see coming up 4 or 5. But I think at the end of the day, UCLA are taking it.
Colorado State takes on Wyoming in the border war. Wyoming's just, I think, went to Game 5 with Grand Canyon last week or 2 weeks ago, and every time Colorado State loses, T. Collie texts me we're deep fried. So I think their mental might be a little bit cooked. I'll take Wyoming at 5 to get a big win.
Yeah, why not? Well, give me Wyoming in 5 as well. I mean, I love Colorado State, man. Shout
Fort
out
Collins
to
is beautiful, man.
Yeah, I mean they have a beautiful campus. Shout out to old East-West league play in CRL, where Colorado State was at the top of the West, but how the mighty have fallen. Like you said, I think that they're just chalked for this season in CCS. Give me Wyoming in 5. I think that we're going to see some classic.
Yeah, I mean they play in a good league. Grand Canyon joins this year as well, and obviously next year they'll be in the Pac-12 for CCS 2026. More details on that to come later on in the year, but that's exciting changes coming. Somber, I believe I've already told you what's happening, but nonetheless, moving along forward, Fresno State takes on San Jose State in the battle for the Valley. I'll take the Spartans in 4.
Yeah, I for the meme I wanted to go the Bulldogs, but I feel like with the season that San Jose has had, they started off as, I believe, through week 4 they were the 2 seed behind San Diego State. They looked really, really good in games. They ended up getting kind of handled by San Diego State when they ultimately came up to them, and I think that Wazoo having the big kind of bounce back that they've had. I really like Fresno State, but I think that just the impressive results I've seen out of San Jose State and their turnaround from spring to now, I think it's going to be the Spartans in 4.
Yeah, that football team needs to get turned around too, though, man. They've gotten slammed like 3 weeks in a row. They got slammed like 59-3 by North Texas, and Washington slammed them in the Apple Cup game, and I think they just got slammed last weekend too. But moving along, I mean, Wazoo's good, but I like San Jose State in the Fresno game. I think Wazoo takes on like San Diego State this week or something. They're fried. The Aztecs are going to sweep that game. Moving along, number 13, James Madison takes on Old Dominion for first place in the Sun Belt. I'll take the Dukes in 5.
Man, it's tough not to bet against JMU. Like personal biases aside, I think that Fright has shown to be one of the best freshmen in the nation. I would venture to say. Kid has a lot of grit to him. He's a very malleable player from what I've heard. He just continues to get better and better. JMU look unstoppable. So I'm actually going to go JMU in 4.
Valid. Solid take there. Second to last rivalry pick here, Toledo takes on Bowling Green State. And if you don't know, fun fact, Toledo has a rocket on their campus that is directly pointed towards Bowling Green State University. So that is a deep-rooted rivalry, and I think both these two teams have had successful seasons. Bowling Green obviously have had a couple tournament appearances, somber, but Toledo, this is their best season to date. I like the Rockets in this one, but I have to stick with Bowling Green. I'll take the Falcons in 5.
Yeah, I think that this will be a game 5. Either way you shake it. I would absolutely love for a game 5 clutch from Toledo, but I think at the end of the day, Bowling Green, they have too much history behind them of success in the MAC and making it, like you said, there's a couple tournament appearances from BGSU. I think they're going to come out with the win here in week 5.
Your mic's a little roboty right now. I don't know what, it's tripping a little bit, but I can hear you with the pick there. But now our last game, Somber, and I wish we had extra weeks in the season for this, but tonight is Army Navy night at 9:15 Eastern. Army will take on Navy for the first time ever in CCS. Are you taking the midshipmen or are you taking the Black Knights?
This is tough.
Navy's 0-6, Army's 4-2. Or 2-4, sorry.
This is gonna be tough pick. Let me hit the results real quick. I want to see if this 0-7 is fraudulent at all, or if they're actually playing some quality comp.
I mean, Army's getting games. Navy's 1-21.
Yeah, they are.
But apparently,
I feel like
usually should be a good game, though.
I think it'll be close just because of the rivalry, but at the end of the day, Army has more than one win to their name in terms of games, not even series. So give me Army, man.
I'll take Army in this one too. I mean, heck, they beat Wichita State Black, which is a solid roster, and they beat UAB. I mean, I like Army in this game. I think Army will come out on top. I mean, we try to do our best in a rivalry week cross with getting a lot of these bigger time games on in the last week of the season, and next year working on something right now. And I think as long as there's a proper window to make it happen, Army and Navy will have their own week next year. So I'm looking forward to that. As long as both teams will agree to play, obviously that's obviously a factor to take into consideration. Hopefully both teams play, but Army Navy is cool. I think it's gonna be a fun game tonight. And if you're not doing anything at 9:15 Eastern, please come tune in and support Army and Navy. Because why not? Go support our troops.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. Again, I think that a lot of these games where there are clear victors, I mean, even in the San Jose State Fresno State series, Fresno State has a great win over GCU, but like at the end of the day, you take a look at the records and you say, okay, 4-2, 2-4, there's a clear winner, there's a clear better team. At the end of the day, sometimes the rivalries just mean that much more. So something like Army Navy, if this is the one win that they get all season and they go 4-23 because they win it in game 5, that's going to make their season. That is going to make all of this worth it for them, because that rivalry means just that much more. You need to hold it over Army, that, hey, we own you in Rocket League. But yeah, it's gonna be a great matchup here tonight coming up between Army and Navy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting. I mean, the game like this, obviously, I just got pinged in Discord too by Chipmunk, who's the head of esports at Kentucky. He told me you guys should do their own week for Army Navy like football does. And I told him what I just said on live. I mean, if we had the scheduled time for that, absolutely would do it. And hopefully next year that can work out for the changes coming, which again I'll get into in the spring semester. I don't want to leak too much too early, but Army Navy is a cool game, and it's always a big time game in football. They play at MetLife Stadium. I think it's a big game here tonight, and I think Army's going to win in 4.
Again, for the content, I'm gonna say Army in 5. I want to
That'd
see
be
that
fun.
Game 5 thriller between these two.
Game 5 would be really cool, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Moving along, though, the conference tournament overview. I mean, I think I'll see if I can get my. Is it showing the sheet? Anyone in chat able to verify that? Hey, it is. Perfect. So the Power 4, the top 4 teams all secured double buys. You can see who is clinched and who is not clinched those double buys. Purple are singular buys, and green will have to play in the opening round. And as it stands right now, Somber, next week in the Big 12, we'll have TCU take on Houston in the opening round Sunday through Wednesday. The rest will play Thursday through Saturday, with being the 5 will take on the 11, the 6 will take on the 10, 7, or wait, no, that's wrong. Hold on. My math is not mathing. TCU Houston winner plays the 5 seed, then 6 plays the 12, 6 plays the 11, 7 plays the 10, and 8 plays the 9. But as it stands right now, TCU Houston, that could be an interesting game next week. But again, there's still a lot of double bye slots open. Syracuse takes on Virginia Tech later on this week for a double bye. But again, these races are tight.
Yeah, and I mean we talked about it. We talked about it on episode 1 of this season's podcast. This is probably the most competitive season of CCS that we've seen. Usually in these groups, we have 2 teams that go undefeated until they face each other in the final week, and then everyone else is kind of floating just above 500, and then you have a team that goes maybe 2-5 that qualifies as the bottom seed in their conference tournament. Not this season. You have a lot of teams that are fighting to stay above 500. You have a lot of teams that are 1 loss, and there's a lot of quality competition. We still have those top 2 seeds being undefeated until the final week, but I mean, you look at the ACC, Cal at 6-1, Clemson at 5-1, and Pitt at 5-2. Just taking this one little section of the entire competition and seeing those records and seeing these game diffs, those are all great teams that are having phenomenal seasons, and it's going to be that much better when it comes down to these conference tournaments. And I think that again, we're kind of seeing that estimation of how competitive this season is going to be come to fruition. We have so much depth throughout a lot of these conferences. We have so much top end talent from some of the smaller, less deep conferences that are going to be able to take shots at these big name schools. We're gearing up finally for the most fun part, which is seeing the upsets, seeing the storyline start to develop for postseason. It's going to be a great final week in rivalry week to see kind of where all of these teams shake up and shake out, and see where we are heading into the conference brackets. And now with the gauntlet style tournaments and having the new format for postseason, it's going to be that much better. And I'm very excited to see how this season is going to wrap out.
Same here, and I think tonight UCF takes on West Virginia. Those 2 teams 4 and 5 respectively in the Big 12. The winner will have a lot of leeway and a lot of ground in that race for a double bye tonight. Texas Tech is UCF fans. If UCF defeats West Virginia, that secures double byes for Texas Tech and UCF.
Yeah, I mean UCF. I mean, even at the beginning of this season, UCF started out pretty shaky, and we've seen a lot of big turnarounds from teams that did not have the best start, but they're finishing the season strong. And again, it's just kind of more fuel to the fire of this is going to be a very competitive talent pool for postseason, and a very tough top 64 to try to decide for the national championship, because we have so many late season risers, so many teams starting to figure things out. We're seeing freshmen start to come to fruition, and the depth is crazy throughout the league so far.
And the SEC's got a lot of depth, but so does the Big Ten. I mean, again, the Big Ten voted to play a 9-game schedule, so they've got to play an extra game, which means that it's going to take even longer to clinch a spot in the conference tournament, or a double bye or a singular bye. So now you see Purdue and Maryland sitting at 7-0. They still have 2 games to go. I mean, UCLA technically still could catch Purdue and Maryland as well as Illinois.
Yeah, I mean it's a crazy world we live in where the 5 and 6 seed in the final week can actually catch up to the 1 and 2. I don't think that we've ever had a season where the conference hasn't been that deep and it's been that competitive, because usually you count out the 5th and 6th seed, because like I said, they're usually sitting at 500. They're not sitting at 5 and 2 with hopes of catching the top 2 or 3 seeds, because it's that competitive at the top end.
Yeah, UCLA's 11 games back though, so if they're going to catch Purdue, they're going to have to get 2 sweeps over Southern California, and I believe their last game down here is Maryland. So they've got a chance to directly catch Maryland if they can sweep them and sweep USC, but then they're also going to need help from Maryland also losing their other game in the differential, obviously mattering to Penn State, which obviously thinks that'll be a 3-0 for Maryland. So actually, Maryland is clinched at this point in time at 8-0.
Well, dang, that kind of soils the storyline there. But hey, well, there's still
They
a
can
lot
catch
of
Purdue.
they can definitely catch Purdue, and they can still catch
Yeah.
they can still catch Indiana. They can still catch Michigan State. They can do a lot of damage here. They can rise a lot and sure up better seating here for the tournament.
Looking at the Big Ten tournament here, I'm showing the bracket on stream right now. I mean, you look at this bracket, and obviously, if you're in the back, you've got a long way to go. But playing for that double bye is very important. You're 3 rounds away from the tournament, obviously. But again, these games are going to be very important. Next week, the Power 5 and Group of 5 schools will play the opening 2 rounds. All teams that get double byes have the week off. So, you get a little bit of a lighter week with not having to play next week if you're top 4.
Yeah, and I feel like taking that extra little bit of time off to focus on other leagues throughout and getting that quality warm up still. We've seen teams kind of benefit from that as teams start to heat up late season. They exert a lot of energy in that first round match, and they get that first round bye, and they come out and they absolutely dominate. So having the double bye here, you talk about they get to sit back, get some good tape on their opponent, get some good warm up in elsewhere, and then come in fully primed to finish out the season as strong as possible.
You mentioned the ladder bracket. This is the American Conference Tournament. Ladder style as the American has moved on to a new conference tournament format for this year for across all sports, excluding football, obviously, but basketball, soccer, and volleyball have adopted this new format. And so now your regular season obviously mattering a lot more. You can get a quadruple bye if you are 1 and 2, which should be Wichita State and Charlotte respectively. But who knows? And they obviously anything can happen. Those 2 teams played this week as well, so one will take a loss. But again, these brackets will be a lot of fun. I'm super stoked for the ladder bracket here in the American and down here in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I feel like the Sun Belt is always going to be interesting, especially with. I feel like Georgia State. I had to catch myself from calling them Buds because it's forever Buds.
Right.
But Georgia State, they are going to be always one of those teams that is competitive, and I feel like they took a little bit of time. Monk joining back on the roster, trying to get that chemistry back going, and then of course with Asian Eyes coming in as a freshman, another big time freshman riser. Louisiana always is going to be Louisiana. Old Dominion, we've seen been able to do big things and pull off big games. I feel like the Sun Belt is going to be intriguing as ever. Last season, it was kind of Louisiana on a hot streak and Pigeon carrying that JMU team. I feel like now that JMU has gotten back to kind of a more team style offense and a team style play, Georgia State is getting back into that form as well. Louisiana still being the defensive masterclass team, and Old Dominion being able to rise kind of when the spotlight is on them. That top 4 there out of the Sun Belt is going to be very, very competitive.
And no Joe though for Louisiana hurts. This fall not having him available for the roster, but he'll be back in the spring. So they'll be back to a top 15 again in the spring, I'm sure. But it happens. Players lose their best teams lose their best players. When Iowa State had Midas, unfortunately, have to believe drop out of school, so they couldn't play this season due to that. But hopefully they're back in the spring. But Nonetheless, I mean, again, these teams have to find out ways to get the job done. That's what it comes down to this week in the last game of the season. And, the standing races are as close as they're going to be. Now's your time to go pick up a big win and, make a mark.
Absolutely. And again, I feel like a lot of the teams that we've been talking about, they are the type of teams that know how to step up in the final week. Talking about the Sun Belt, Georgia State, it is usually a 2-team race between Georgia State and JMU. They're sitting at 6-0, so they're sitting pretty right now for their chance at that number 1 seed out of the Sun Belt. But usually the 2-team race between them, then when it comes down to this final week, it's whoever locks in. Whoever has that clutch gene in them in that final week gets that 1 seed, and we're going to see that now through kind of our 5 through 8s, where it's so competitive. There's kind of a long log jam of all these teams where you have 2 matches and you need to win 2 of them, and you're contending with a lot of those players above you, and you're looking for a +2 or a +3 in your standings. We're going to see a lot of those games where these teams that had a slow start, they're going to be able to finish out strong, especially teams like Texas. We were talking about it earlier in the SEC. Texas, I feel like, is a prime candidate for one of these teams that they find a way to mesh right at the final moment, right when it matters the most, and they're going to be able to come out and produce big wins. And I feel we're going to see that happen throughout all of this week with all of these matchups.
And, again, this week is, if you're fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for a bye or whatever, I mean, sure, go all out, get your win. But, the wins start to matter a lot more next week in the conference tournaments where everything's in the line. Mm-hmm. For these teams that are way far out of the field, starting next week's your chance to make a run and get the selection committee a heads up saying, again, here we are, we're going to make a run and show you why we deserve to be in the tournament. But, again, nonetheless, your life's on the line starting next week. This week is your last chance to get as high of a seed as you can in the conference tournament.
Absolutely. Higher seed, the better chance that you run, the better chance that you get a case made for you with the selection committee. So it all starts this week. And I feel like we're going to have a lot of chaos in store for us in this final week of play before we hit bracket.
Well, as this podcast wraps up for one more episode next week before we get into selection processing. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, please come tune in later tonight, 9:15 Eastern. Army takes on Navy. Please come support our troops and please come support these programs. We'll see you guys there, and we'll see y'all next week. We'll have a bracket for you as well, presented by the selection committee. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all later tonight.